is calling you. The universe is calling me. It speaks both day and night. It's full of dark and light.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sky Tour Radio here on KGRAradio.com. I'm your host, Mark D'Antonio. At least I think that's who I am. Yes, that's who I am. And here with my wonderful, effervescent, and amazingly talented co-host, Amanda Curran. Hello there, Amanda.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good. And we also have joining us another amazing and talented astronomer extraordinaire, Daryl Mason. Hey there, Daryl.
Hi, Mark. Hello, everybody. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Daryl.
Amanda's fizzy.
She's busy?
Busy?
Or fizzy?
Fizzy.
Uh-oh.
Well, either like the tablets that you flavor your water with, or like Alka-Seltzer. Which one?
Or like effervescent.
Yeah, that's the effervescent.
Yes.
I almost said effervescent, by the way, and I skipped over that word because I've used it with you before, Amanda. I could have said new and improved, but you're not new and improved either. You're just sort of like, you're always improved. So I can't say new because
Always trying to improve.
Yeah, I mean,
Each show, always trying to improve.
we'll see if I called you.
Everything's better with Amanda.
Correct.
Thank you. I love
If
that tag. That's so cute.
If I said new and improved, that you would then say, well, what does that mean? I was old and lousy before? And of course, I don't mean that. I want to welcome you all, the KGRA listeners, the wonderful listening audience that is growing all the time. We're getting ever more listeners and ever more subscribers to Sky Tour live stream, which is the companion stream to the radio show, Sky Tour Radio. Sky Tour Radio is your portal to astronomy on KGRA Radio. And Sky Tour live stream is the visible portal where you actually see the things we talk about in Sky Tour Radio. So I think some of you have seen the post that I put out today, which was a celebration of the just about 2 year anniversary for Sky Tour live stream, and just over 1 year anniversary for Sky Tour Radio. We kind of, officially, and I thought that maybe you would have seen that. If you did, consider joining Sky Tour live stream. It's a wonderful place where you can go. It's a clear night journey into the wonders of the deep sky, and it's all courtesy of our research-grade telescope here at the John Zach Memorial Observatory in picturesque northwestern Connecticut. You can see stellar birthplaces. You can see the remnants of dead and dying stars right before your eyes. You can view these glittering jewel boxes of stars that are in these rich clusters, from globular clusters to scattered open clusters. And it's a stream where you can also be in charge if you want to be. And as Amanda will tell you, and actually even Daryl, you can tell us objects that you like to see, and we'll steer to them if they're up in the sky, right? I mean, Amanda's said we have a request a lot of times, and I'll say, what do we got? And she'll tell me that the request is hers, and she wants to see the Cat's Eye Nebula.
Most often than not, yeah.
Yeah, because she loves that blue color, which she knows comes from doubly ionized oxygen.
I did know that.
See that? I know you knew that. And the question is, like, why does she know that? Because she is someone who didn't know anything about astronomy when she started, has an open mind, and is always eager to learn. And she learned all about it. And, between me telling her and her looking into things on her own, she actually learned an awful lot about astronomy. So she's an example of a glittering jewel on her own in the area of student learning. She is amazing. And we're very, very happy to see that. She's a what I would call a Sky Tour success story.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah,
Amanda has come light years.
That's a very true statement.
Since she started, I'll have to say.
Yeah. And
that measures time, not distance.
Measures both.
It measures, yeah, that's okay. You see, that's Amanda's still learning, as we all are in astronomy. Astronomy is my science, but it's also a science that I think belongs with everyone. Everyone can see it. It's reachable by everybody as long as you have someone to explain it to. And that's what Sky Tour Radios and Sky Tour Livestream, in fact, is all about. Bringing the complex down to a much easier to digest bite-sized portion that you can walk away with and actually understand. Because if you try to read a book on it, you might say, I can't imagine what this stuff is. I don't get this. And it'll turn you off. It'll make you feel, bad about yourself and bad about astronomy. And we don't want that. We don't want that. I've always been a popularizer of astronomy. That'll be my legacy, I'm sure. But I also think that we can bring astronomy down to the masses and do it in a way that's not just talking about it, but showing it to you. And that's what Sky Tour Livestream's all about. Now, I can't tell you what's going to happen on a regular basis. I can only say that it happens on clear nights. And if there's no clear nights, we can't do the observatory Sky Tour Livestream, but we might do what we call a cloudy night stream, where we actually do something like look at the moon in very high resolution through the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter website, or do some other things like Universe Sandbox 2, where we actually say, well, what happens if 2 Jupiters are in our solar system? What would happen to our solar system? You'd be amazed to see why there's no such thing. We can prove there's no such thing as Nibiru or any other big, heavy planets and massive planets that come wandering into our solar system every so often, or so many millions of years. I mean, those theories just fall right to pieces when you actually put one of these planets in an orbit, like they claim, and see what it does to our solar system. Within just a few revolutions, that visiting planet would rip this solar system asunder. And since it doesn't happen and hasn't happened, we know there's nothing there. And, it spoils their fun. But you know what? It's okay. I'm a person of science, and I'm open-minded, but I'm also not ridiculous. I can't go down a path that says that anything is possible, because everything is not possible. There are some possibilities that we can't fathom. That's true. But there are not possibilities that violate the rules that have been set by the universe for billions of years. Those are one-time rule breakers, and they will rip a solar system to pieces. And since that hasn't happened, we can say with 99.999%, and of course the other people will say, well, that's 0.0001%. That means it can happen. Okay, I'll grant you. I won't ever speak in absolutes. But that's about as close to an absolute as you can get. So that's my quick take on the Nibiru thing, and that wasn't even what we were going to talk about tonight, but I threw that in there because we were talking about Sky Tour Livestream and visiting the beautiful deep sky wonders. Now, lastly, our online store at fxmodels.com or the FX Models Planetary Replicas page on Facebook is a place where you can go to purchase very cool 3D printed Moon, Mars, and Pluto landscapes. And these are all landscapes and craters that are taken directly from the NASA probes. And we have spent a lot of time dealing with the curators of the data and acquiring the best data so we can actually send you images that look just like the real thing as 3D prints. And they come out absolutely stunning, as Daryl will tell you, and as Amanda will tell you, and all those that have bought one have told you.
I will.
Yes.
I have a copy of Tycho Crater. Mark got me, and it's beautiful. It's sitting here right by my left hand, in fact.
Yeah. And you can play with a little pen light and look at the shadows, and they fall just like they do on the real crater. And you can study how the light falls in the crater with this. It's really neat. And incidentally, Sky Tour Radio has a call-in line now. It's sponsored by the Paranormal app, which is found on Google Play and on iTunes. And in the last half hour of the show, we will be opening the lines if anyone would like to call. And that number, which we will repeat, and Amanda might be gracious enough to stick in the chat, that number is 85KGRA Live. And in numbers, that's 855-472-5483. All right, again, that number will be in the chat later. And the phones, just so you know, will not be answered until we start taking calls. So we'll let you know when that's going to be. All right.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah. You were talking about being weather dependent, doing astronomy. And, well, I still haven't got the new telescope out. It snowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it snowed 2 feet up in the high country here over the weekend. And the weather gods are really angry with me for getting a new telescope. I'm hoping maybe tomorrow night. The weather's supposed to finally improve, but Amanda, I may miss American Ninja Warrior if the weather's good, so just let you know.
Wow.
I'll keep those for you.
That's what happens, Daryl, when you buy a telescope. And you're not just angering the weather gods, Daryl. You're angering all your neighbors too, because they're saying, "Oh, he bought a new telescope." Well, there goes the neighborhood, Kathy. It's gonna be snowing forever now.
Yeah, probably.
That's the way it's gonna be. You know.
Sky Tour live stream was nice last night. I had the night off, so I just hung out and chat. It was kind of fun. Let Mark answer most of the questions.
I actually didn't. I didn't even think I was going to stream last night, and I did. It was a last minute decision, and rather than run around and say, Daryl, come on with me, or Amanda, you want to do this tonight? I said, you know what? I went it alone from the beginning, for a bit, and Amanda joined me as the co-host for that. I mean, it's always better when she's around, of course, but this time I wasn't planning on doing a lot. I'm flying out to Arizona tomorrow to do talks in Sedona and Show Low, and I'm also going to meet with one of the police departments out there to talk about a drone program that they'd like to institute, and I might help them with that. And while I'm going, I figured, all right, the stream last night could only be a short one. And I was also testing a new piece of equipment as well. And that was a piece of equipment that actually attaches to a regular camera, a 35 millimeter camera, and a tripod. And when you put this thing between the camera and the tripod, it moves the camera just like the telescope would. It's called a star tracker. And it's actually, the name of it is the Ioptron Sky Tracker Pro. And my report is that it actually performed quite admirably. I could do 4 and 5 minute exposures with the camera zoomed in and get very little motion detected on the final image. And I was running the camera through Wi-Fi, to my regular smartphone, which was controlling it, and it really, really came out nice. It was just beautiful. So that's coming with me. It's already packed. That's going to be with me in Arizona, and I'm going to be taking some sky panoramas if I can, if the weather is conducive.
That's great.
Yeah, it's going to be dark sky.
May I add for the old school people, what Mark's talking about, it's a modern digital, I assume, version of what used to be called the barn door tracker. You can build one yourself if you just do a search for barn door tracker, but hey, everybody's building the nice fancy ones now, and they work great.
Well, this one's very compact and small. It's the size of the palm of your hand. And it can carry a load of about 6 pounds if you use the optional counterweight system for the camera. I'm not using a counterweight because I'm not near that. I'm around 2.6 pounds for all of my stuff that's on there. And that's all that I'm going to fly on that right there. And we'll see how it works. I haven't had it under a dark sky yet. I mean, a truly dark sky. But that'll be the case when I get out to Arizona.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to one place that's actually, if you look at the sky, the dark sky, one of the places I'm going to be doing a talk, its dark sky meter doesn't even have a reading because there's no reading there. Not because they missed it, but because it's so far outside of any light pollution that I'm shaking to get there and try this out.
Sure.
Yeah.
The old, the modern trackers, like you're talking about, they do the equivalent of what used to be called piggyback photography, which is where instead of the camera being attached to the telescope, it's riding on top. This is great for taking deep sky panoramas and constellation pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite kind of picture, actually.
Well, this can take pictures, though, if you have a lens that you can zoom. This will take pictures. Well, for instance, you can get beautiful photos of the Orion Nebula with this, depending on the telephoto that you're riding on top of this thing. All you do is zoom into it, and then you can take literally you can take a 1 minute shot at a very, very low sensitivity on the camera and get a beautiful photo that would be the same as doing a say 6400 sensitivity, ISO we call it, at maybe just 3 seconds or 5 seconds. You can do 1 minute at 50 or 100 and see a much finer image with much more subtle detail that's visible, that's not lost in the grain, the noise that's induced in such images that have a higher sensitivities. We're going to talk about camera sensitivity and how the cameras really work on a SkyTour radio in the near future. So I think you'll want to stick around for that as well. As I said, we'll open the lines a little bit later. And right now, what I'd like to do is I want to start with an exoplanet roundup, but it's going to be a little different because the exoplanet roundup is actually going to be the feature for tonight. One of the main features, I should say. And if we have time, we'll go on to a few other things that I have planned. But honestly, here's I don't know. It came to me in a dream. I was actually about to nod off to sleep, and I thought, what would we want to talk about on SkyTour Radio that really is so fundamental? Kind of like Amanda likes to hear the history of everything. So, in sort of a history of everything manner, I want to discuss what volcanic upheaval has done to our planet. Why our planet? Aren't we talking about exoplanets? Yes. Our planet is an exoplanet if you see it from another star. So if it's happening here, it can probably be happening elsewhere. So here's the deal. What every exoplanet has to go through is volcanic upheaval. There is going to be a volcanic history on all exoplanets. So by looking at our exoplanet, our Earth, okay, we can project what an exoplanet would be going through possibly and how life might be changed there due to volcanic upheaval. And we've talked about the 5 extinction events that have happened here on our planet, okay? And 2 of those are probably changes, as we said in the past, of biodiversity, where there weren't many what we call adaptive radiations of life, where there's a common ancestor and like you get 20 or 30 species off of that early ancestor. If there were fewer of those, then the overall record, life record, fossil record, would be a lot smaller for that range of time. And so those on a huge scale could be interpreted as an extinction level event because biodiversity drops off. So there's a couple of extinctions here on the planet that look like they were that. There's one, however, that we don't really know for sure because it's 250 million years ago. It was the Permian dying. Daryl, you're familiar with the Great Permian dying, are you not?
I am.
Okay. Amanda, are you familiar with the Permian dying? We've talked about it.
The big freeze that took out the dinosaurs?
No, that's well, actually, you're closer. You're close. You're
close. Okay.
Right? I almost wanted to say no, but then I realized that if this was a game show, I'd have to give you partial credit because you are somewhat correct. You see,
the big freeze for the perma.
Well, the Permian extinction event was a major event, and we're going to kind of talk about that. But to paint that picture, we have to paint the picture of what volcanism is, what it's not. And I try to put it in terms that you might be able to see, I think are a little easier to understand. And here's how we start, okay? If you look at any planet when it forms from a solar nebula, and this material comes together, and it begins accreting. Accretion just means falling into a common center of gravity. This material falls in, and the stuff in the center is heated up really hot, obviously, because there's a lot of pressure on it as it gets bigger and bigger, this ball of stuff. And it may bond together, it may melt. And when it does, you could end up with a molten mass, a blob, basically. You've seen the blobs in the International Space Station. They release water in the air inside the International Space Station. You just see this water blob bouncing back and forth, blobbity, blobbity, blob. Now it's being held together not by gravity, but by surface tension. It's a different process. But the idea is that you get a blob in space orbiting the sun, and that blob is made of molten rock from the solar nebula, the original solar nebula. And as the accretion process continues, it gets bigger and bigger, more massive. And then something happens as it gets to a certain size, and it must be a sphere after that, because the mutual gravitational attraction will prevent a gigantic Earth-sized craggy asteroid, for instance. It has to be a sphere. So it goes past that size, and when it reaches another certain size, the outer parts might begin to cool a little if allowed to. There'll be a lot of material striking the planet. The early solar nebula was really big on asteroid strikes and meteor strikes. There's a lot of debris here. And as the young Earth swept out its orbit, a lot of the stuff was hitting it, making it go molten again. But there was a period of time then where it stopped happening. And the outer surface of the Earth began to cool and became rocky and so forth. Meanwhile, underneath that rock was this seething cauldron of molten material. And the Earth did something called differentiation, which is where the most massive elements, the heaviest elements, based on the gravity of the Earth at the time, would start to sink toward the center, and the lighter ones would stay near the top. Now, because it was like a convection pot, a boiling pot, for a period of time, not all that material got to the core. That's why we can find heavier elements like lead, in a mine. Okay, because of the fact that this material wasn't all sent down to the core. Some of it was strung out up through the upper reaches of the mantle, which is just below our crust, and then into the crust, the lower half of the crust after it began to cool. So that said, each of these, the Earth's surface became a bunch of, as it cooled, several plates developed. What are plates? Well, they're crustal plates. They all move against each other on this mantle, which is a plasticky molten material. And the mantle itself is above a molten outer core and a very rocky inner core. The rock is rocky because of the pressure and temperature down there. The pressure is very, very high. So now you've got these plates that are kind of moving around on top of this planet, this cooling planet, and they bump and grind against each other. And the boundaries of one plate might rise at the boundaries of one plate. They might rise up above another plate, and the other one will go diving beneath it. Okay, and this has consequences, at the surface. Okay, for instance, where one continental plate dives under another, this location is called a subduction zone. You don't have to remember this. There won't be a quiz, but understand that the diving plate is subducted or dives into the Earth at that point, into the hot mantle. Over time, that material that dives in will be melted and reprocessed, only to come up again perhaps at some point in the far future. Now, at these locations where this subducting is going on, these subduction zones are, the boundaries of the plates, the hot mantle material, that area I mentioned, it's semi-molten rock, okay, makes its way up through. That melting process of the diving plate is something that will allow volcanoes to pop up along these boundaries. And this relieves the internal planetary pressures, okay? They're kind of like giant earthly pimples, okay? When the Earth was all molten, it didn't matter. They would just bloop, bloop, bloop and be all set. But keep in mind that these volcanoes serve a huge purpose in the evolution of any planet. They provide a primitive atmosphere. And this primitive atmosphere is composed of many of these building blocks of life that we talk about, and we're going to see that in a little bit. Now, inside this magma that's coming up, force-fed from inside the Earth, there's trapped gas. This gas is trapped in the magma, and it's freed by the eruption, all right? And it's retained by the growing planet's gravity, okay, so that it doesn't get away and go out into space. And it forms this primordial atmosphere. And it's actually relatively predictable in its content. And the cases that we know of now, the volcanoes spew billions, and I mean billions of tons of these gases into the atmosphere, okay? H2O comes up as a vapor, it's basically steam. CO2, carbon dioxide. Sulfur via sulfur dioxide, which is SO2, all right, sulfur dioxide. All right, hydrogen sulfide, which is H2S, okay, S is sulfur. And then they spew quantities of methane, which is CH4, carbon and 4 hydrogens, nitrogen, helium, neon, argon, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen alone. All right, and then there's traces of other chemical compounds. So volcanoes are a rich assortment of providers. And the magma below the ground has these dissolved gases in it. And as the magma rises, the pressure on the magma reduces, and the dissolved compounds can make their way out of the magma as gas bubbles. That's why whenever you see a volcanic eruption at a lava lake or whatever, it's always hissing and popping and boiling on the surface. That's the gas and the magma coming out. The gas goes into the air, all of it. All right. Now, I'm pretty sure that as we move forward here, you're going to just want to hear all the different types of volcanoes there are. I'll be visiting one type when I go out there, and I'll tell you about that when we get back from the break. But these different types of volcanoes are kind of important to the formation of our planet, to the path that life took, and to the path that life will take on other planets, because these are standard order items in the universe, okay? But more about that when I get back here with Daryl and Amanda on Sky Tour Radio. We'll be right back.
Balance of Nature's fruit and veggie capsules contain 100% fine-ripened fruits and vegetables, tested pure with no pesticides, fillers, or additives of any kind, and are the most effective whole food supplements on the market today. You might ask, how can over 10 servings of 31 different fruits and vegetables fit into 6 vegetarian capsules? Fruits and vegetables are on an average 85% water. Balance of Nature uses cold vacuum technology to remove the water, leaving only the whole food. We don't use any heat, air, or light drying methods that damage nutrients. Our cold vacuum technology maintains 99% of the fresh fruits and vegetables' original nutritional value. Along with diet and exercise, Mother Nature provides fruits and vegetables to help us maintain good health.
To order, go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751. That's 1-800-246-8751 and use discount code TALK.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
You know, food was different 60 years ago. It was minimally processed, free of pesticides. It was nourishing and healthful for your body. Today, GMOs, pesticides, herbicides, and heavy processing have depleted the nutrition of our food supply, which takes a toll on our health and energy. It's harder than ever to get the right nutrition. That's what Life Change Tea is meant to counteract. Our specially blended, powerful herbal formulas can give you more energy without caffeine. It's a mild cleanse, a mild daily detox. A good detox can help revive and bring back the energy of your youth. GetTheTea.com is the website. It'll cleanse you from the inside out with this herbal proprietary formula. Go to GetTheTea.com. There's no fillers, no GMOs. It's organic. Not available in stores. You must go to their website, GetTheTea.com. And their supplements are a great way to maintain your health. Read the testimonials on the website. Go to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRARadio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Sky Tour Radio. I'm Mark D'Antonio. I think I've said that before. It's like deja vu or day. You know, and I'm with Daryl and Amanda. Hi, guys. You still there with me?
I'm here.
There we are. Off the air, Daryl mentioned a story that I had briefly heard about, but hadn't read about, and I just wanted to bring it to all of your attention. And some of you out there are thinking about this as well, I'm sure. You undoubtedly have heard in the past day or so that the Curiosity rover at Mars has discovered a really high spike in methane. Now, what does that mean? Well, methane is produced by volcanoes in one case, and methane is also produced by life, microbes. These microbes are called methanogens, and they work without oxygen. They don't need oxygen, but they can produce methane. Now, it's really interesting, isn't it? If Mars doesn't have any active volcanology right now going on, then what is causing the methane production? And why would there be a massive spike like this? This is really interesting. And I think what's interesting about it is, you remember the spike that occurred last time? Was it 2013, Daryl? I think there was a spike on Mars of methane. Do you remember that?
I do remember. I forget when it was. A couple of 3 years ago.
Yeah, and then what happened was, when Curiosity touched down, I think it was in 2012, it detected a little bit of methane, but not a lot like we saw from space. Well, the readings that Curiosity detected this time were 3 times that of that 2013 event, which lasted several months. So something is producing an awful lot of methane. Now, there's another possibility. When we look at the bottom of our oceans, we can find that under pressure, all right, and under great depth, we can have methane that's frozen into ices, all right? And these are called methane hydrates, all right? And we have hydrate fields here on Earth. And in fact, we're going to talk about the hydrate fields when we talk about the Permian extinction later on tonight. And these hydrate fields are very important because they produce methane if that vast quantity of methane is released into the atmosphere. They could be tremendously detrimental and cause global warming if it all were to go out at once. All right, so.
Well, Ronald just pointed out, and I think he's correct, the largest volcano was found on Mars.
Olympus Mons, yes.
So
Yeah,
is this
but
is this kind of expected and now just confirmed, or did
Olympus
this
Mons.
isn't like crazy news, right? It's exciting news, but it's not.
I have seen some speculation that there is still active volcanism on Mars. That came out just recently. I mean, Mars appears to be a dead planet, but there was a recent news article that they think there may still be some volcanism going on, in which case you might get methane released that way. I would also point out that because Mars orbits about twice as long as Earth does around the sun, that its years and its seasons are about twice as long. So if last time we saw summer on Mars was a couple of years ago, on whichever hemisphere it is right now, southern, I think, here 2 years later, it's summer again. And that may be what's helping propel the methane.
Possible. And as I was saying, if we're looking at the methane ices that are trapped underground, possibly that it could be that there is seasonal melting of these hydrates under the surface, and they leak out through fissures in the crust. And this is what Curiosity could be seeing. However, it's also possible that Curiosity is seeing the methane byproduct that is from the methanogens, these little microbes that are deep possibly under the surface of Mars. So when we talk about volcanism on Mars, we generally think about Mars as being somewhat geologically dead. But, do we know for sure? Of course not. We don't. We're not there. There's been hoaxes where you've seen plumes, coming out of volcanoes on Mars, and it's like, hey, look, it's an eruption. No, that was an internet hoax. But there have been other outgassing events that have occurred on Mars that were due to some volcanism, and it's possible that there's more. But the quantity of methane that's seen at this location, all right, is the thing that is important here. We're not near Olympus Mons. We're not near the Tharsis region. We're not near any of the volcanoes with these rovers. All right, so we shouldn't expect to see on the plains of Mars, we should not expect to see methane unless the methane has been trapped in ices below the surface for a very long period of time. But then you have to ask, well, how long could they exist in these ices? And there's a whole other thing, because there is a lifespan to a methane. Methane will break down over time. Could it be held inert? Yeah, it could be held inert in an ice for a while. But over time, it may actually break down. And I think that's something that we have to consider. So if the source of methane is relatively recent on Mars, then the question arises anew. What's causing it? Is it life? Trapped ices that were made somewhat recently? Don't know, because it took time for those ices to form under the surface, or it took time for the methane to form and then get into the ices. But methane doesn't last that long on Mars. So there's a lot of questions here, do you see? So I can't make any judgments about what's causing it. I just think the story is excellent. I want to thank Daryl for making sure that we mentioned it, because he brought it to my attention in the break.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the volcanology, let's again look back at our own planet. Okay, we look at our planet, and as I said, we have H2O, CO2, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide that's spewed by these volcanoes. Methane is spewed by the volcanoes as well. Nitrogen, helium, neon, argon, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen as well, as I said. And a lot of this stuff gets dissolved into the magma as it rises. And again, when there's pressure, down below, as it rises, the pressure gets reduced on the head of the magma as it's rising through the vent. And this gas will come bubbling to the top, sometimes violently. And it depends how viscous the lava is, how thick. The thicker lavas tend to explode very violently. The thinner lavas tend to just pop and hiss and just go whoosh, all over the countryside. Think Hawaii. Okay, but volcanoes come in these three basic variants. Okay, when I go to Arizona tomorrow, I'm going to see a cinder cone, a bunch of cinder cones. These are the simplest. They only grow to about 1,000 feet above the surrounding terrain. One that you might be familiar with is Patacutin in Mexico. It started in a farmer's field as a little vent spewing some lava, and quickly grew to a large volcano on what was farmland. There's no getting that farmland back. You can't shunt a volcanic eruption in a different direction, unfortunately. Another one is the one that I'm going to see. It's Sunset Crater, which is in Arizona, northeast of Flagstaff, actually. And I'm hoping to get there, but I'm not sure that I'll be able to get there. We'll see.
If you do, would you post pictures in Sky Tour Livestream on Facebook?
Oh, of course I will.
Then everyone can click over there and check them out with you.
Yeah, and if I can stream, I will, because I want to stream some of this too. But
that would be wonderful.
Yeah, they're really good. It's really nice there. And these are craters you can climb and crawl down inside of, and it's nice. And it's a nationally recognized area. And right near Sunset Crater, which is a volcanic origin, is the meteor crater in Arizona. And that was a meteor crater that was 50 to 80,000 years ago. It was an impact that gouged the big mile-wide crater in the Arizona desert, about 800 feet deep, I believe. And that meteor, there was a lot of fragments recovered. It was an iron meteorite. I have an iron meteorite here. I've shown a lot of people in the Sky Tour live stream.
I have a piece of that meteorite also. It's called the Canyon Diablo.
That's right. And when I was getting my degree in astronomy, I think I told this story. And I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to. We had a 450-pound piece of the Canyon Diablo meteor, and it was on a special stand in our library, in the astronomy library at the university. And so I, with three other guys, we picked it up and we put it on the observatory director's chair. And then we went home for the weekend. He came in on the weekend to do some work, and he was, to say the least, quite angry that his old wooden chair was not even movable because the wheels were embedded in his wooden floor. We didn't realize, this was a very heavy meteor, and we just sort of like lumped it on his chair. And yeah, we didn't hear the end of that until we graduated. He always looked at us with a funny eye, like, I'm going to get you someday. Really nice guy, though. Really good guy. He did forgive us, but, hey, when you're there all night long working in an observatory, sometimes you get a little bit punchy and you do some things that maybe you're borderline, I won't say criminal, but, you shouldn't have done. And that was one of them. We shouldn't have done that. But the Canyon Diablo meteor lives on in infamy at my university for that reason. Anyway, that's the meteor crater in Arizona where that hit. Another, by the way, and that's not a volcanic origin, that's a meteor impact from space. Another cinder cone that's in the country that people don't realize is in Crater Lake in Oregon. Now, Crater Lake itself wasn't the cinder cone. Okay, it was a different type of volcano. In fact, the entire mountaintop blew off. But there's a little island in the middle of the lake now. That lake island is called Wizard Island. And that's also a cinder cone that popped up. It was sort of like the last gasp, hi there, hi, just me, a little gasp right there of what was remaining of the lava flow. And then between after cinder cones, we have the composite volcano. And the composite volcano is one that's really, these can be pretty violent. They're also called stratovolcanoes. You've seen them before. Mount St. Helens was one, Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, Mount Fuji in Japan, Mount Shasta, Cotopaxi in Ecuador, and Crater Lake in Oregon, like I mentioned. So I'm telling you, they can grow up to 8,000 feet high. They have very violent eruptions at times. They're beautiful mountains here and abroad, and they are just beautiful. They have snow caps sometimes, and you say, wow, they're beautiful. Mount St. Helens was beautiful until it wasn't. All right. And we were flying on our way out to see Mount St. Helens when it blew up back in 1980. We were in the air and we landed in Los Angeles. It's like, well, this isn't where we're going. Well, it's where you're going now. So it's like, oh man, all flights are shut down. So we lived on the floor of a YMCA for 2 weeks and didn't get to see Mount St. Helens. I'm glad we weren't a few days earlier. If we were, then might not be here, but that was when we could go. But we didn't make it because of the eruption, but I'm okay. I'm okay that we didn't get there, because I wouldn't want to be dug out of a car, buried under, I don't know, a mountain of ash. So now Crater Lake in Oregon, as I said, it was one of these composite volcanoes, a stratovolcano at one time, and it was Mount Mazama, right? And this was located on that spot where Crater Lake now sits. And about 7,000 years ago, the volcano literally blew its top. It was one catastrophic eruption, and the entire magma chamber below the volcano drained. However, the consequences of the drainage of these big chambers like that is that the overlying rock strata are no longer supported by the magma below, and so the entire chamber collapsed. And then over time, it filled with water. And then as a final act on the grand performance, that little tiny cinder cone arose from one end of the lake. That was Wizard Island. And Crater Lake was born. And that tiny cinder cone that led to the formation of Wizard Island is often hiked by a lot of people who come out to the lake. Right? So those are the composite volcanoes. So we did cinder and we did composite. Now the last one, and this is kind of the important one. And we're talking about the biggest islands on the biggest volcanoes on the earth and so forth. And that's the Shield volcano. Now these volcanoes are formed from magma chambers. They have long slopes. They may look like big giant hills. They don't look quite like a volcano looks with the big sloping sides. They don't look like the composite, I should say. And they're much, they can be much, much bigger. They can be the biggest type of volcano. And the flows can move quite fast, really fast. And they typically have this low viscosity magma that can run fast. Okay, so the question is, and this goes back to what I wanted to mention to you before, and I listened to you saying, oh, Olympus Mons is the biggest volcano on the whole solar system. But the question is, let's talk about the Earth. What's the tallest mountain on the Earth? Amanda, do you know?
Is it
Kilimanjaro? I know, but the tallest mountain? What did you say?
Kilimanjaro? No.
No, but that's actually
Everest?
Mount Everest is typically said as to be the tallest mountain on the Earth, isn't it? You're right.
Is it Everest? Okay. I should have thought of that first, but I thought it was a trick question.
No, hang on.
Depends on your point of view.
Oh.
Actually, it's Mauna Kea or Mauna Loa, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, see, now we're getting somewhere. See, shield volcanoes can be really large. And Amanda's answer is exactly what most people will say. So technically, she's not wrong if all you consider is the land. But look under the water and look at the rest of the Hawaiian Islands. Look at the rest of Hawaii, the Big Island. That's a giant volcanic mountain. All right. And so these shields can be very large. The largest mountain on this planet is, in fact, a volcano. And it is Mauna Kea, as Daryl said, on the Big Island of Hawaii. And you counting its base to its ocean floor, it's actually taller than Mount Everest by quite a bit. And now you would say, well, what's the next largest? And now, is Mount Everest the next largest? No. Actually, it's another shield volcano. It's Mauna Loa, a sister volcano to Mauna Kea. Also on the Big Island. So you see, there's these different types of volcanoes, and the shield volcanoes can be massive. I mean, just unbelievably massive, right? And again, low viscosity magmas, they travel quite a distance. They cover a lot of ground. They're responsible for growing a ton of landmass, And there's different types of eruptions too, and that kind of goes along with the different types of volcanoes. And we're not going to get too far into the different types of eruptions. You've seen them, the big explosive ones, or the ones like Hawaii, where they just like kind of effuse. It's called effusive eruptions, where they just like come rushing out of the vents and just go streaming down the sides. They can, go 30 miles an hour or more. They'll certainly outrun you if you on a gentle slope and you've got this lava train coming at you. You got to remember that's liquid rock heading right for you. So it's going to hit you with the same force as a boulder. So you don't want to sit there and try to push it away. You want to get out of its way. And these effusive eruptions, these effusive, EFFUSIVE, effusive eruptions can really put on quite a light show. That low viscosity lava makes these lava fountains that you've seen in Hawaii, where there's gigantic, you hear this, when you see these gigantic puffs of lava being blown up in the air by the gas that's now coming out of the magma. And they produce this runny lava that really destroys property, but it rarely takes lives because people can get out of the way. They have gentle but very swift lava flows that are slowly covering the land and inexorably taking back what humans have claimed. And in Hawaii, it's very important. The culture reveres volcanoes. Actually, the native indigenous culture revered the volcanic eruption for a lot of reasons. It refertilizes the land, it rejuvenates the land, it builds new land. It's an incredible process, and you just have to open your eyes as non-indigenous Hawaiian people to understand that. My mother was a Native American in part, and so in the Native American culture, they also have names for different volcanic events and places. Devil's Tower in Wyoming, for instance, there's plenty of stories that surround the nature of Devil's Tower. Well, that was an eroded volcanic intrusion, it's called, where the lava went up into the ground, and the top of Devil's Tower is 800 feet over your head. But that was where the land was up there, and it eroded away over time exposing the harder lava below, which was this plug of lava that had that cooled in place deep underground, never reaching the surface. And now it dominates the landscape. It's an incredible place. If you ever get a chance to go to Devil's Tower, and it's just 9 miles outside of Hewlett, Wyoming, you got to go there. I've been there twice in the last 2 years. You know,
We have the remains of a couple of volcanoes here in Colorado. Actually, we have one active volcano. It hasn't erupted in a couple thousand years, but they still call it active. It's called the Dotsero volcano, Dotsero.
Okay.
It's up in the mountains west of Vail, and it's still labeled an active volcano. And also down south of me, there are the Spanish Peaks, they're called. I can't repeat what the Indians called them. They involved a part of the female anatomy. They are the remains of an ancient volcano, or two volcanoes, and they're like what was left of the magma cores of the old volcanoes.
Yep.
They're very prominent mountains down in the southern central Rockies, right on the, I guess it's not the Front Range. It's too far south to be the Front Range. But you can see these things over 100 miles away. They're huge.
Yeah.
And they have what's called the Devil's Dikes, which are radial dikes running from the cores of the old volcanoes themselves out for miles around in all directions,
Wow.
which are also solidified magma. And beautiful, very rugged country down there. Really something to see.
I think that would be wonderful. I'd love to see that. I've
They're
been
really
out to
cool.
Colorado a few times. I've never seen that. Yeah, you know what? That's the thing. Beneath your feet, if you dig deep enough, you'll find lava. That's to say, magma, and lava will come out. Magma is what we call the molten rock in the ground, and lava is what we call it when it reaches the surface. So the thing is, when we talk about these effusive eruptions where we have this runny lava, we see this in Hawaii. That's kind of what we see there. However, we do know that there are these explosive eruptions that are caused by a very thick and viscous magma. Okay. And this magma doesn't release its gases immediately because it's so viscous that gas is held in the magma for longer as the magma rises to the surface. And the magma explosion that you actually see when it comes out is this gas bursting out of this thickened magma. And when it bursts out like that, sometimes it can fling huge chunks of liquid rock, molten rock, for hundreds of feet, sometimes fractions of a mile. And these are things that are as heavy or as big as houses in some case, mostly cars in other cases. And, you got to be careful. You don't want to be around that. Mount St. Helens was an explosive eruption that was generated by this landslide from the side of the volcano. And once that landslide pulled away, the pressure underneath could come bursting out, and it did. And it went quite far. Now keep in mind that the pressures deep in a volcano are many times the pressure at the surface. Now, I know that you'll probably know, Daryl. I wonder, Amanda, if you know the pressure at the surface. What is the pressure that we feel from our atmosphere over our head? Do you know what the pressure is at sea level here on Earth? I know.
14.7 pounds.
Yes, 14.7 pounds per square inch. Now, the gases.
I was going to ask how you even phrase it.
That's okay. We've never talked about it, and I know that I put you on.
I was going to guess 40. Why am I thinking 40? Is something 40 times the gravity? Is another planet 40 times the gravity of ours or something? I thought I heard that. I don't know. Just a random number that popped in my head, I guess. Never mind.
You know what? If you make no guess at all, then, what good are you, right? You have to be able to guess. It's okay to guess.
14.7
pounds per square inch.
Pounds per square inch is what? Our atmosphere pressing down on us?
Yes.
Gravity?
Yes.
Every square inch on your body, you're feeling pressure of 14.7 pounds per square inch. That's under your armpits. That's to the left and right side of your thighs. That's on the bottom of your feet. It's on the tops of your head. It's everywhere.
No wonder my back's so sore.
Well, if you go up in a plane to 32,000 feet or 34,000 feet, the pressure will be a lot less. But only if they allow the atmosphere in the plane to vent out. And then, of course, your ears will explode and you will not be very happy. Of course, you'll be out without oxygen too, but still. So keep in mind that the magma is feeling the same release of pressure as you going up to 34,000 feet with no airplane. So it comes to the surface because it's feeling pressure that is holding the gases that are in the magma inside the magma, holding it in a solution inside the magma. And the pressures can be way over 50 times greater than the pressure at the surface. So this means that the magma is infused with these dissolved gases and it will expand. And if the magma is really thick, then you can't form bubbles very readily. And so it'll just suddenly explode when it gets to a certain point. The runny lavas will let the gases out little by little over time. And that's why I said for the Kilauea eruptions, you just saw this, you hear this noise, and you just watch these fountains. The gas is getting out relatively easily. But in this thick lava, it just doesn't happen. So we don't get to see that. It's really something. But if this thicker magma rather, is infused with the gases, they will explode very differently. And they'll explode out, and sometimes can be pretty violent. Think of some of these eruptions in the past that have happened. We'll talk about those, of course, when we get back. So I'm Mark D'Antonio here on Sky Tour Radio. Can't believe that another half hour has gone by. So wow. But stay tuned. Daryl, Amanda, and I will be right back.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
So we've got our neighbor Paul coming over tonight for a barbecue, which is why I prepared a delicious lemon rosemary steak marinade from my special collection of old family recipes. To make sure the steaks are extra, extra, extra tender, I left them marinating out on the counter overnight, just like Nana used to.
Maria may mean well, but without food safety, it never ends well. Always thaw or marinate foods in the refrigerator at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below, or you could make your friends and family really sick. Maria's neighbor Paul didn't think twice about the steak he ate until he was presenting his company's financial forecast to the board. That's when a sudden bout of food poisoning made it explicitly clear that profits weren't the only thing on the rise. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov. You'll learn the right steps as Maria does everything wrong. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, KGRA family, are you looking to show the world that you're a true believer? Well, shop now at thesaucerbrand.com. They've got something for the whole family. Jackets, hoodies, shirts, and hats, and so much more. And now's your last chance to use promo code KGRA for $10 off when you spend $50 or more at thesaucerbrand.com. Your new source for official and authentic ufology-inspired essentials made right here in the USA. And don't forget, use promo code KGRA at checkout and get $10 off when you spend $50 or more. Believe in style and elevate your craft at thesaucerbrand.com. And look for them at the Alien Con, June 21st through the 23rd.
Hey everyone, this is Nick Redfern, and you're listening to Sky Tour Radio with Mark D'Antonio on the KGRA network, and so are the Men in Black.
Now you have the inside contact for alternative talk radio. The Planet. KGRAradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Sky to Radio. Before we went to the break, we were talking about these dangerous explosions and so forth. But let's put them into some perspective, because the whole point here is we're talking about volcanic upheaval on a planet. And so far, a volcanic eruption really doesn't spell much of a disaster for a planet, believe it or not. Yes, it could take lives. Yes, it could kill lots of animals. But the effects, the long-term effects of the volcanic eruptions typically don't cause extinction level events. However, let's pursue that a little bit, okay? So, armed with this knowledge of these effusive, runny lavas versus explosive, thicker magmas that are infused with these gases that just burst out, armed with that knowledge, let's talk about the most dangerous volcanoes on Earth and then speculate about that danger on other exoplanets and what it might mean to the development of life there. Because remember, if it happens here, my big thing is, if it happens here on this planet, then we can expect that it will happen there on other planets. And I don't think we're wrong about that, because all planets are born from fire. Okay, they're born of the fires of the creation of a planet, from the nebulae from which they're formed. It all starts as a molten ball. All right, they all will have volcanoes. That's, I think, a given. Now, let's take a look at some of the earthly eruptions to see just, and on the different scales, what kind of devastation they caused. Let's pick Mount St. Helens in 1980. It caused a lot of devastation, but it didn't change the course of evolution. It interrupted air travel. I know, as I mentioned, I was on my way out there, and we got rerouted to Los Angeles. But it just wasn't, it didn't cause anything. It spewed literally 0.3 cubic miles of material into the air. All right. It didn't cause a change of course of the evolution on Earth. It didn't cause an extinction level event. Now let's go back in time a little bit. Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. It destroyed a few cities. Okay. Vesuvius has a checkered past, Herculaneum and Pompeii. It killed thousands. It spewed 0.8 cubic miles, almost a cubic mile of material into the air. But it did not change the course of evolution, and it did not cause a major extinction level event. All right? Now, I know I'm jumping around the historical timeline, but I'm doing this in order of size of the eruption. Krakatoa in 1883, it killed tens of thousands of people, caused a shockwave that went around the world several times. It spewed 4.8 cubic miles of material into the air. Now think about that. Almost 5 miles. Go 5 miles out in any direction, then go 5 miles straight up, and 5 miles an hour to the left or right. And that cube of material is what got spewed up into the air from this eruption. It did not cause a change in evolution, and it did not cause an extinction level event. Oh yes, it caused some stratospheric material that caused some winter type conditions here and there for a while. But again, it passed. No major effect on the Earth overall. Now let's go to the supervolcano, Yellowstone supervolcano. It last erupted 600,000 years ago, more than 50 times larger than Krakatoa. 240 cubic miles. Imagine that. 240 cubic miles of material into the air in this one eruption. Did not significantly affect evolution on the planet globally. Did not cause extinction level events. All right. Yes, it put 3 feet of ash or more, 7 or 8 feet of ash in Nebraska, where Nebraska is. It did wipe out lots and lots of animals, but the Earth bounced back. It didn't have a permanent effect on the direction of life, because life elsewhere on the planet did not have a serious enough effect from this supervolcano. So the question is, and you can argue, there's certainly microscopic levels at which you can take this and argue, oh, well, a supervolcano did have a lot of effects. It did this, it did that. Yes, I understand. but I'm looking at it in a comparative sense. If a supervolcano isn't enough to significantly alter the Earth's evolution and the lives of many species for any significant period of time, what is it that could? And what type of volcanic events could cause major changes in the evolution and possibly even cause extinction level events? The answer is a flood basalt eruption. Now, what is that? Well, similar to what happened on the early moon, if you look at the moon roughly 2,000 miles across, when you look at the moon on any night where it's like gibbous or even full, you'll notice it's not just bland gray. There's dark gray areas. These dark areas are what we call maria or seas. Okay, they're not really seas. They're actually darker level lavas. They're darker lavas that have spread across the surface of the moon. These are flood basalts from a large impact that then, allowed from inside the moon. It allowed a lava to seep out and overtop all the features in the area, which were probably craters. And these got buried to some depth. We don't even know the full depth of these seas of lava to some level, and they caused the moon to be smoothed out for a period of time in those areas. Then, of course, subsequent to that, over the next several billion years, they were struck by many meteorites and asteroids over time, and so most of those maria are now totally pockmarked with craters. But the point is, those flood basalts had a tremendous effect on the moon. Now, they didn't affect us, but literally for nearly 1,000 miles in some in directions, in various directions on the moon, you have these vast basins of flood basalt areas on the moon, these maria. Now, on the Earth, which is of course much larger, the flood basalts have covered nearly the same amount of areas on the moon overall. There's a lot of these flood basalt areas on Earth as well. But they had a more profound impact on life. And to see how that happened, we have to go back 250 million years ago to the age of the Permian. The Permian age, the pre-mammals were dominant. These were therapsids, which were they would become the mammals later. And also, amphibians and reptiles were being sidelined by these pre-mammals. In other words, mammals seem to be on a course to dominance on the planet 250 million years ago. All right. Well, that's good news for us, right? We're mammals. And in the oceans, life was very varied and had many different species. Now, most of what follows here is based on speculation, but mostly factual, as noted in the fossil record. So keep that in mind. So during the Permian period, the land was one large supercontinent known as Pangaea, and it had a major change to the climate that began in the north of Pangaea. Now, this is a speculative with factual data to back it up. So it's a hypothesis, basically, as to why we lost almost all life on the planet back in the Permian age. We call it the Great Dying. How did it happen? Here is one way. North on the supercontinent of Pangaea, in the northern end, molten rock began erupting and spreading out on the land in what would become Siberia, and it initially covered about 40,000 square miles. Okay, it had lava fountains that were 20 miles high in some cases, based on the analysis of the material. Ash and other eruptive materials spread over the entire region. It was an area the size of France that became a hell on earth, basically. Now, we think about a magma chamber, and the biggest magma chamber that we know of on the Earth is the Yellowstone magma chamber. Now, the Yellowstone magma chamber is about 25 miles across overall. Okay, there's a couple of them. There's a shallow one, a deep one. But let's just keep it simple. About 25 miles across, and about maybe 80 miles deep, okay, or whatever. Now, the magma from this northern Pangea magma chamber was 600 miles across and that much deeper. It was an impossibly massive magma chamber. Impossibly massive. So it was probably the biggest magma chamber during the Permian period. Now, as it erupted, this lava spread out over the surface and it was fed from this massive chamber. And it flooded a vast region to about 160 feet deep with this lava. And then it continued for 100 years. And over the years, 500 cubic miles of molten rock was exuded from this long set of fissures in this area that would become Siberia. And further lava continued to erupt on and off for, are you ready for this? 350,000 additional years. So, what happens when there's an eruption? Well, we talked about the hissing and popping. Well, what is that? That's gas being released. Well, we talked about some of the gases that come out. Some of the gases were sulfur dioxide, that's SO2. And some of that would react with H2O, water vapor, and created particles that would block the sunlight, and a volcanic winter would ensue. Now, hydrogen chloride, which is H and C, okay, and hydrogen fluoride, HF, those would actually combine with atmospheric molecules to cause acid rain, okay, which is sulfuric acid, H2SO4. All right, that was the chemical formula for sulfuric acid. And that would, of course, be very dangerous to life and so forth. So the thing is, the chlorine and the fluorine released could also damage the ozone layer, and the UV danger increased, killing animals that were susceptible to higher doses of UV. And this is, by the way, this is all up in the northern region. This is not on the other side of the planet at this point. All right? It hasn't been, the other side of the planet doesn't even know about this. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right? It's a localized to the northern Pangea event. Okay? And, of course, in that area where there's acid rain, the animals would look for cover over time because they would be getting burned from sulfuric acid, affecting them. It would hurt their eyes, damage their seeing. So certainly it was killing animals and species early on. Now, the thing that's interesting here is the gases gases are usually removed from the atmosphere very quickly. But because of the prolonged time over which these eruptions took place, it kept the toxins in the air and in the water. So by the time the eruptions in the Siberian traps had finally ended, more than 1.5 million square miles were covered in lava. Now that's half the size of the USA, and that's more than 1 mile thick across half of the USA. So that's a lot of area. But if you look at the Earth's space, you'll say, well, that's significant, but there's a whole lot of other landmass. And that's true. And the whole eruption lasted 350,000 years, which is sort of a blink in the cosmic eye. And this was all north up in Pangea, and the rest of the planet was relatively unaffected. But as I said, however, the stage was set for an even bigger disaster. All right? So this 1.5 million square mile sheet of mile-thick lava kept a cover on a still very large magma chamber. All right, and it kept the cover for a while. But see, magma under pressure will find a way out, just like other substances that can find a way through the smallest opening. Incidentally, just out of curiosity, it has nothing to do with magma, but mercury is one such substance. If you step in liquid mercury, you won't sink if you walk fast through it. But when you get out of it, you'll find that even though you're wearing boots, that you'll have to shake mercury out of your boots because it would seep through the smallest openings, just a couple of molecules thick. So mercury is very good at going through very, very thin or very thick materials because it does it at the molecular level, and it's really cool. But in the same way that it does that, magma will find another way out too. And it'll find its way into the smallest areas. And what it would do was, it's under this heavy cap, and it couldn't find anywhere to go. So what did it do? It went sideways. It would go sideways. And we call those sills, S-I-L-L-S, a volcanic sill. And these are intrusions that are beneath that plug of heavy lava that's keeping the lid on, so to speak, of this magma chamber. Okay? And these volcanic sills pushed out from this gigantic lava cap. And as it moved out horizontally, it reached sediments, all right, that were bearing organic matter. All right? And organic matter has massive amounts of carbon dioxide in it. And these were freed from the sediments as it moved out. So when the carbon dioxide and the magma reached the boundaries of the lava cap, suddenly the magma could get to the surface. And what do you think happened when it did? When it did, all of that pent-up CO2, all of that carbon dioxide was released all at once into the atmosphere. And we're not talking about 1,000 tons. We're talking about 100,000 billion tons. Okay, 100,000 gigatons of carbon dioxide was released into the atmosphere all at once. All right, and that's what had a profound effect on life during the Permian period. There was catastrophic global warming. The temperature increased 9 degrees Fahrenheit or 5 degrees Celsius worldwide. We talk about ocean temperatures rising a degree as a cataclysmic, cataclysm. Okay, imagine it raising 9 degrees. Okay, now as the oceans warmed from this, guess what else happened? The falling dominoes continue. Okay, trapped methane in those hydrates we talked about earlier, the ices deep in the ocean, these were released because they were warmed, and they get to the certain point where either temperature or pressure is released, or temperature is increased or the pressure is lowered. Well, if the pressure stays the same, then as the temperature rises, then those hydrates can come out of the ices and melt and release the methane. So these hydrate fields started releasing their methane. And methane is a greenhouse gas that is far more efficient than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. So guess what? The temperature rose another 18 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. So that means that during the Permian period, rather suddenly, the temperature on Earth increased by about 27 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius in a short amount of time. Think about that. We think, like I said, 1 degree is catastrophic. What about 27 degrees? Plants died. Land animals died. The ocean acidified because we had acid rain falling. And with the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, the problem became one where this now the acid rain in the oceans and the acidification of the oceans meant that animals that use shells couldn't construct shells and couldn't keep them built. And so they died. Coral died. Plankton died. The ocean was warmer. And one of the things that happens in a warmer ocean is that oxygen is depleted. And that occurred, and more animals died. Over 99% of the global animals were destroyed. 99% globally. The animal population was lost. On land, 75%. In the ocean, 95%. And it happened over a period of only 60,000 years. Okay. Now, the animals that did not require as much oxygen, animals that did not require a perfect climate, could survive. And those animals happened to be the reptiles and the amphibians. And they were left dominant as a result of this catastrophic dying. There were still pre-mammals. A few of these therapsids did survive. Okay. And they basically were relegated to second fiddle, basically, and they had to just wait in the shadows for their time. And this just represents one major extinction level event on our planet. All right, but this extinction event paved the way for the age of the dinosaurs. And we've talked about it before, but I was giving you details now. This is the details in our history of everything. Okay, here's the history of the Permian and why the Permian dying might have occurred. Now, we know that there's plenty of evidence of a massive basalt flood up in the Siberian Traps, it's called, the Siberian Traps region. If you look it up online and check it out, you'll see. Now, but think about this. the path was on Earth that mammals were heading for dominance. Then we had a volcanic eruption that caused, over a period of 100 years, a lot of land area was destroyed. And for the next 350,000 years, further eruptions were causing further land to be destroyed and caused a massive lava cap to form over the magma chamber. And as the magma trapped now went sideways out from that central part, it encountered organic compounds and sediments, and a lot of the carbon dioxide in those sediments was released. And then when it finally reached the edges of the magma cap, can you imagine what that looked like? In different areas around that gigantic lava cap. I mean, tens and 30, 100 miles, 50 miles, 100, who knows how many miles away from the original eruption. All of a sudden, you get this explosion of magma and carbon dioxide. Any life there would be quickly extinguished because the oxygen would be overwhelmed. And it would be a death sentence. And, of course, that would cause a massive die-off, and that's just what happened. And this is the only thing that can explain what we see in the Permian, and the evidence is there to support it. All right? So, this is on an exoplanet now. If you look at an exoplanet, this is what we would deal with. We have to think about this. Every exoplanet is going to have to deal with, at some point or another, some type of volcanic upheaval, you see. And this volcanic upheaval is something that we've been through. And we survived. But look at the path life was taking. Mammals were heading for dominance. Reptiles became dominant. Then 65 million years ago, the Chicxulub impact, which is a asteroid that struck just off the Yucatan, as you remember. This asteroid struck and caused, of course, nuclear winters. Asteroidal winters, we should say. And thus the plankton and plant eaters and plants died, leaving the theropods, the meat eaters, with nothing to eat. And what did that do? Well, that meant that we had no more reptiles on our planet that would be these gigantic reptiles like this. The age of the reptiles, in other words, was coming to an end. And those little mammals, pre-mammals, hiding in the background, could now rise to fill the niches left behind by these big, massive reptiles. And thus, we are here once again. Isn't that something? So this is, I think, it's a very interesting journey that we're taking. I hope you like this little journey through our history, as it kind of shows us what life elsewhere may have to deal with to rise to dominance. And it also shows you something else. This also shows you that life elsewhere does not at all have to look like us. I mean, what if there was no Permian extinction? Would dinosaurs eventually become intelligent? Well, it's not a guaranteed thing because, there's a lot of factors that determine intelligence. And, one of them is, cranial capacity. But there were some theropods, meat eaters, back when the dinosaurs were destroyed in 65 million years ago in the Cretaceous Paleogene boundary event, that were starting to increase their cranial size, their cranial capacity. The number of cc's, or cubic centimeters, in their brains was growing at a rather rapid pace. Does that mean they could be more intelligent? Well, if you see Jurassic Park, you see the raptors were apparently communicating with each other. Well, this is a movie, but it was based on some of the science that maybe they had some type of pack behavior mentality and could communicate with each other. Is it possible? I don't know. But boy, oh boy, I can tell you that I think that I'm happier to be an intelligent human than an intelligent reptile. Because I think that, I already don't like winter. Can you imagine? I wouldn't want to be in winter, So, I mean, what would your name be, Amanda, if you were a reptile? What would we name you?
Oh my gosh.
Right? I mean, and Daryl, what would be your reptile name? If you were a reptilian type creature. Who knows? Maybe this is where reptilians come from, a planet, if they exist. Maybe.
Hopefully, I'd still be a herbivore.
Well, you may or may not.
I think all animals have a way of communication.
Oh, sure.
I think that's likely. I mean, not necessarily pack animals, but who knows? Maybe some of them were.
Yeah, I know my dog Dingo knew how to communicate with Indy, who was our black lab pit bull mix, and she had Indy run into my shop to get a bone that she had thrown in there, like a rawhide bone. And she watched Indy run in, and then I literally looked at Dingo, and I knew I could sense she was thinking something. What was she thinking? She figured out that there was a chock holding the door of my shop open. And Dingo wanted the other bone that was much bigger near my feet. So she grabbed the chock out of the door and flung it. And my door closed on Indy with this tiny little fragment of a bone. All right, closed on her in the dark, locking her in my shop. Dingo drops the chock, picking up the big bone and says, basically, can I have peanut butter now? It's like, she reasoned that out. She figured out that she could lock Indy in my shop and then demand peanut butter for her bone, a bigger bone. So Dingo wins the prize. It's like, wow. I couldn't believe that. You know, my oldest son saw this happen, I think, at the same time. And we just looked at each other with, what happened? Just what was this? This was crazy, you know. So we'll talk more crazy. And by the way, when we come back, the phone lines will be open. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about, please feel free to call in. Amanda, if you could put the number in chat, it's 85KGRA Live. That's 855-472-5483. We'll see you when we get back. This is Mark Antonio with Sky Tour Radio with Daryl and Amanda. Be back.
Today might be the day I drop out of school. Today could be the last day I try. My parents alone can't stop me. My friends can't even stop me. But you might be able to. With United Way, you could tutor me, be my mentor, or volunteer to just read with me. If someone had helped me earlier, I might not be struggling. And studies prove that kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. There are tons of ways people like you can help kids like me stay in school. And United Way is calling for you to be one of them. Because it takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between me becoming one or the other could be you. Make me a success, not a statistic.
Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
So we've got our neighbor Paul coming over tonight for a barbecue, which is why I prepared a delicious lemon rosemary steak marinade from my special collection of old family recipes. To make sure the steaks are extra, extra, extra tender, I left them marinating out on the counter overnight, just like Nana used to.
Maria may mean well, but without food safety, it never ends well. Always thaw or marinate foods in the refrigerator at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below, or you could make your friends and family really sick. Maria's neighbor Paul didn't think twice about the steak he ate until he was presenting his company's financial forecast to the board. That's when a sudden bout of food poisoning made it explicitly clear that profits weren't the only thing on the rise. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov. You'll learn the right steps as Maria does everything wrong. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hey, welcome back to SkyTour Radio. I think I said, hey, welcome back, I think, every single time coming back from break, right? It's like, don't I think of anything new to say? It's like, all right, let me try another one.
It's okay. You're welcoming back friends. I like it.
They're all my buddies and friends. They're all good people, you know?
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
I like that. It's natural.
All right. Very cool. Then I don't feel so bad. If you do that, if you like that, folks, just send Amanda a message at SkyTourRadio@KGRARadio.com and let her know what you think of her. It'll all be good news, I'm sure. I just want to say the phone lines are open. We have one caller on hold. We'll get to you in a minute. And I just wanted to say that to Daryl and Amanda, if you guys had any thoughts about everything we talked about with the volcanic upheaval and so forth, I would say now's the time to let us know.
When Mount St. Helens blew up, it ruined the windshield of my car, and I was 1,000 miles or more away from it.
Wow.
Got up the next morning, and the ash had covered my car. I was up in the central mountains here in Colorado, and, of course, Mount St. Helens was in Washington, and it dusted my car really good, and like an idiot, first thing I did was turn on my windshield wipers.
Oh, yeah.
I got to buy a new windshield for that.
Actually, your insurance should have paid for that.
I don't remember. It was so long.
Back to nature, I don't think so.
So I'm scared to think what would happen if Yellowstone ever does blow. Like you said, we'd probably get like 6 feet of ash here or something.
Well, it was about 8 feet in Nebraska. I mean, it was actually, I thought originally it was like 3 feet, but in looking at the ash beds in Nebraska, they're actually between 7 and 9 feet. So I'm averaging it to 8. Can you imagine that? 9 feet of ash from Yellowstone. That was a direct fall, boy, let me tell you.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, and yet it never changed the evolutionary course on this planet. It certainly killed lots of animals, but it didn't change the course of evolution in species the way these flood basalts did and the Siberian traps. So, I mean, I wanted to do this show this way because this was a really absolutely incredible revelation when I was looking at this. I've seen this years ago, the thought that the Siberian traps were the reason for the Permian extinction. And again, the traps is the region and now what is now Siberia where this is located. And I think that, the planet has its own, it has a plenty of capability to destroy itself from volcanology, never mind an asteroid strike. We don't need an asteroid strike. We just need a set of eruptions that just doesn't stop. One set of eruptions that might not have stopped could have been a man-made one. Also in the 80s, when the Chernobyl reactor exploded, that reactor explosion, the melted core was making its way down through the containment building, had reached the lowest sub-basement as it melted through pipes and so forth, spewing out onto the floor, and it was starting to melt through the concrete sub-basement floor. And if it got loose and they didn't stop that melted core from reaching the water table just below the building, then that corium would have continued to react for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it would have been unstoppable. And they would have had a steam volcano, a radiation-laced steam volcano that over time probably would have killed hundreds of millions of people. Can you believe that? The stupidity of the human race. I'm telling you, you put all your eggs in an imperfect basket, and look what you get. You get broken eggs. And that's why we need to go to, and this is sort of a little aside, but it's kind of pertinent, as a growing species, rather than kill ourselves off with nuclear power, we need to go and look into fusion power. Fusion is always 10 years away, but you know what? There will be a point where fusion will be happening. It's the power of the sun. And, the fission reactions are the reactions that basically, they happen by themselves unless you mitigate them, unless you put something in to slow them down. Those things you put in to slow them down are called control rods, and you lower them down into the reactor. Well, the bottom line is that these control rods take energy to put in, and so I liken a fission reactor like Chernobyl, like 3 Mile Island, like the Japanese reactor. I liken those as being in a deep valley, and you got to push the reactor out of the valley with a lot of energy to get it to the top where it'll be stable. Fusion, on the other hand, is like being at the tippity top of a mountain. You just go either way. You just go either way, and the reaction will just shut down. Okay, so the worst byproduct of a fission or fusion reaction is tritium, which is partially used for breeding the reactor to make it run, to make the fusion reaction run. And tritium is radioactive, but it's not cumulative like these other radiations which destroy cells. Okay, and I know we have a caller on hold. We'll get to him in just 1 second. By the way, I just want to let you know, folks. But the tritium won't even penetrate your skin. If you had it in your hands and you rubbed it with a powder and rubbed it onto your skin, it wouldn't even penetrate your skin. So tritium is actually radioactive, but relatively harmless compared to the fission reactants and the things that come from a fission reaction. So fusion is a way to go, and it's far higher power, but it requires more delicate balance. Now, with that said, I'd like to bring a caller online. So let's prepare ourselves. We have no idea who this can be. So here we go. Hello, caller. You're on the air. This is Mark. How are you?
Hey, Mark. How you doing? It's Ronald from Minnesota.
Ronald from Minnesota.
Amanda, and hello, Daryl.
Hi,
Hello,
Ronald.
Howdy.
Doing good. I had a question. What if the dinosaurs didn't get destroyed? Would we be where we are today, or would we just have to learn how to deal with them? And would we be farther along? Would we? Where would we be if we had dinosaurs here?
I was wondering that same question earlier, Ronald.
Wow. Hey, this
right.
is good. A good
Cool.
synergy here. I have a thought, and that is that I suspect that we wouldn't be what we are today. We'd be very different. I don't think we would have evolved alongside the dinosaurs. They occupied many of the same niches that we would have wanted to occupy. So we would always have to have been in the shadows. So we would be a smaller species, probably a little bit more stealthy, and more capable of basically watching our backs, because we would be food for the theropods, the dinosaurs that eat meat. And the bottom line is that would we have a world where we're sharing the world of dinosaurs? I don't know. Maybe we would be our intelligent dinosaurs. Who knows? We don't know that for sure. Daryl, you got anything to say about it?
Oh, I pretty much agree with you, Mark. I suspect we would not have happened if the dinosaurs still existed. We'd be little rodents crawling around in trees and stuff.
Yeah. Or we might be yellow-eyed creatures with scales admiring each other's tails.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way to know. But so that's an interesting question, Ronald. And I've often pondered that myself. Where would we be if the Permian extinction didn't happen? I also thought, where would we be if the Chicxulub impact, the one that killed the dinosaurs, at what we call the Cretaceous Paleogene boundary, also known as the KT boundary event. Where would we be if that extinction didn't happen? Would mammals arise again? My thought is mammals were on the rise, or the pre-mammals that would lead to mammals were on the rise during the Permian. And after the dinosaurs were removed, they rose again to dominance. So does that mean that, at least on this planet, I think it means that mammals were destined to be the dominant, naturally selected species to be dominant on the planet. Okay, and if that's the case, right?
Do we have what it takes to survive another situation where a major disaster is going to happen where we have to survive with whatever means we have to survive, and then will we be able to get through and survive and outlive whatever else is here?
That's a good question. I mean,
that makes sense.
will we have the wherewithal to survive? Well, we'd be a lot more cunning to survive at all. We would have to be we'd have to have traits that were the result of adaptation to the change. Remember, evolution is mutation followed by adaptation. So if there was no impact that killed dinosaurs where mammals could then arise and leave mammals relatively unobstructed to rise to dominance, then I would think that perhaps the mammals that did arise would have developed ways to avoid being eaten by the dinosaurs. And it might be as simple as
good point.
Where they choose to live, might be how they choose to move about. They might move differently. Maybe we would have developed through a mutation followed by an adaptation. We might have actually begun to fly. Maybe we'd be a flying species. Would we be intelligent, though? I don't know the answer to that. What makes an intelligent species? Well, there's medical science which tells you, well, cranial capacity tells us one thing. Yes, it does. But what about sentience? What about the fact that we each feel we have some conscious being inside of us that is us, that makes us who we are? What about that? See, that can we say that dogs have that? Can we say that hamsters have that? How about?
I think to a certain extent, I think every species has their bright point, so to speak.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But
I think like the rat will find the cheese at the end of the maze. When you put a block of cheese out there, the rat will find it eventually, right?
Right, and that's because the rat has an instinctive evolutionary trait that is something where it can actually do pathfinding. The octopus is actually my go-to animal. Okay, the octopus is probably, in my view, the smartest animal in the oceans.
But can you find the cheese at the end of the maze?
The octopus, yeah, in fact, yes. The octopus can. Let's put it in water. The octopus. I've watched experiments, which are actually, there's one online you can go see, and all of you, you look up octopus, the smartest creature in the ocean, and go on YouTube and look up the study that was done. You will see, and we talked about octopi on Skytour Radio. Well, gosh, remember that, Amanda?
I call them octopus.
Octopus, yeah.
We had this discussion.
The octopidii, yeah, the octopi that cephalopods, that we talked about. When we talked about them on Skytour Radio, we referenced a study that you could see online. Again, look up, octopus, smartest creature in the ocean, and do it in YouTube, and you'll find this video. It shows a study where they had these clear plastic boxes, and they were connected by little chambers, one to the next, and then there were a bunch of tubes. All of the tubes led to different places, and there were two octopus creatures. One was in one box, one was in the other. One octopus was allowed access to the tubes, and he began probing the tubes, going through the tubes, trying to find a way out. There wasn't a way out, and that way out would actually be the one that takes him out to the rest of the tank where he wanted to go. And the other octopus just observed. And this first octopus hunted around, looked around, took him a while, but he found the exit finally. And then he went out. Then the other octopus was allowed to enter the box. He went into the box and immediately went out of the tubes, right out the very same exit in one shot. Now, what does that mean?
Wow.
Does it mean that the octopus watched and learned and said, oh, I know okay, that was a dead end. Okay, is he processing the route taken by the previous one? Now, or was the other octopus leaving behind some chemical marker that the other octopus was just blindly following? Well, no, because if he was, then he would have also retraced the exact steps of the other octopus, or at least part of it, going down some of the dead ends, because the octopus would have been releasing a marker all along that way too, do you see? But the octopus went right out of the correct way, all right? And repeating this test, they got the same result with different creatures. So there's something else going on. There's some intelligence going on here. Some intelligence.
Well, thank you for the call, and I'll let someone else call in. I could sit here and listen to you talk all night.
Well, you do. You listen to us every week, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yes, we appreciate that.
You're very faithful. That's Ronald
support.
from,
Yes.
Ronald from ERT Radio on Mixler. Thank you for your call, Ronald.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you,
Good
Daryl,
night.
and thank you, Amanda.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
And you can always talk to people like Ronald in our chat room here at Discord. Just find KGRA Radio on Discord and join in the conversation. Great group of people, really smart, really fun.
Yeah.
So join us there.
Yeah, and I hope, Amanda, that you and Daryl aren't upset that I did the stream without you last night. I really wasn't intending to stream, and I hit stream. And it's like, uh-oh, I guess I'm streaming. And then I kind of end up getting caught up in streaming. I just didn't, Daryl was in the chat.
I was in the chat room. I was having fun in chat. I was taking a night off.
Yeah, and I didn't. I apologize for not, saying anything to you about doing the stream. Again, I did not know I was going to actually stream. I hit the button by accident, to be honest, and then I didn't have the heart to stop it because I had a lot of people that were just coming in and wanted to see it. So I said, "All right, we're going to run with it. I got plenty we can do."
Awesome.
No worries.
Yeah, it was fun.
But did you have fun? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it was very fun. And the only problem, the sky last night wasn't that good, folks. We had some very, very high, thin clouds, but we managed to get some views. And even with high, thin clouds, there's still detail to see, especially in the star clusters. And we could see the star clusters. And last night, we went back and looked at a very special star that is really a standout. It stands out like you can't believe. You see all these stars that are kind of bluish, kind of white, maybe a little yellow, and this bright red one right in the middle. It almost looks like an error. Remember that one, Daryl?
Yeah, so the one we saw on Sky Tour live stream recently.
That's like we saw one last night. We saw it like the last time we had Sky Tour live stream. We went to that as well. Yeah, and that particular star was just as bright orange, bright red as you could imagine, and it was really small. It wasn't like Antares, which is the eye of the scorpion in the summer sky. Okay, it wasn't like Betelgeuse, which is the upper left star in the constellation of Orion. This was a very tiny field star, as faint as the other stars in the field, but it was bright orange. It's probably one of these stars we call a carbon star, where it's got a lot of carbon on its surface and tends to redden the light tremendously. A giant star in the end of its life. And so this star was just beautiful. And sitting out there all alone in the sky, just like, wow, the universe is an amazing place. We love it. We really, really love it.
I thought that star was so distinctive. I was surprised that your astro program Stellarium didn't have anything for it.
Yeah,
had no information.
It did not. But I'm gonna. I can look up the star in a database called Simbad. That's SIMBAD. We can look up Simbad and see what's going on with that star. And this is one of those things, folks, that we see in SkyTour Livestream. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I did a post to many, many groups today on SkyTour Livestream and SkyTour Radio, in fact. And I know we have a lot of new listeners that are listening tonight who have not listened before because I got messages from a lot of people saying, oh, I'm going to listen tonight because of that post. I want to make sure we got some new folks listening in to see what's going on. And as it turns out, we had quite a few. And a lot of people responded saying they were going to listen. So I'm very happy and pleased and honored that you have joined our family. The KGRA family is a family that just absolutely loves your attendance, wants to hear from you. And we reach about 3 million people a month with SkyTour Radio. We're always very highly ranked for our time slot. It's a good prime time slot, and we're right now in the top 5 right at the very moment, ranked in our ratings. We're actually number 5, I believe. So this is pretty good, and this is all because of these folks, Amanda. They made us this way, and I really appreciate our audience. And Daryl was a member of the audience, and now he's sort of a member of the Sky Tour Radio family, isn't he?
Yeah.
Hey.
And a wonderful addition, might I add.
Oh.
And anyone can now be an addition by calling us. I love the accessibility of the show. That's what I always enjoyed about the Sky Tour live stream, and now with this show. People wanted it. They wanted a science-based show. They wanted 2 hours. They wanted to be able to talk to you. We're listening, and we really appreciate the continued love and support you guys show us every week.
Yeah, it's just Commander Cobra, a good friend. He basically says the KGRA listeners are the best listening audience on the earth.
There.
And I've sort of absconded with that line too, because I really believe it too, and I think that it never gets old for the people that are listening to the show. You guys need to know that you're like, this sounds like a telethon, but you guys need to know that you are the best listening audience on earth. And so this is why I write a show every week for you guys. This is why I bring something new into the fore every time we get on the line together. So I'm very happy.
We put the fun. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We put the fun in dysfunctional too.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a compliment or an insult or I don't know. I don't know. Coming from Daryl is never an insult, but I think that's probably true too.
Well, fun's what matters ultimately.
Yes,
it is. It is actually. It is what matters, and I think that's what we do here. And I'm probably not going to stream tonight. It is clear here, but I'm not going to be able to stream, unfortunately, because I do have to fly to Arizona tomorrow morning. I'll be out there until July 1st. I will be
Canada Day.
Is that July 1st?
Yes, it is.
Oh wow, Canada Day.
Oh, Canada.
Thank you.
I don't know that song. Yeah. And I'm not going to ask you to sing it, Amanda. It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be out there. There's in Sedona, Arizona, which is one of the most beautiful places on earth. A lot of red rocks, a lot of good geology, folks, out there. There is a wonderful community out there of people, and apparently there's enough of them that want to hear a talk that they're bringing me out there to do a talk in Sedona. And then the day after, I'll be in Show Low, Arizona. I love Arizona town names, okay? Any state that has a town name like Tombstone, you got to love it, okay? You got to love it. And so Show Low is another SHOWLOW, Show Low. And I mentioned at the top of the show that, Show Low is kind of a dark sky region. If you go outside at night there, I imagine the skies look stunning. And why? Well, because when I look at the skies on Google Earth Maps, I have this overlay that you can all get. It's called the dark sky overlay, and you put it over the United States and part of Canada as it comes in automatically, and you can see where the light pollution is. And in the darkness where there's no light pollution, they don't have a color gradation, okay? There's a dark blue at the edge of the light pollution areas. And I've been in that area in Arizona, west of Wickenburg, and the dark blue. And you can see toward the opposite side where there's more and more light pollution, you can actually see some of the city domes, the city light domes for like Phoenix out there. All right. However, in these dark areas where there's no it's called the Bortle scale. There's no Bortle reading because the sky is just dark. You can't see your hand in front of your face. If you go outside at night around your homes and just try and look at your hand in front of your face, your eyes have to adjust, but over time you'll end up seeing your hand. Okay, if you hold it up against the sky, you might see it silhouetted against a somewhat bright sky. And out there, there's no such thing. You know, I only saw that one time, and that was when I was out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on a fishing trawler with my cousin. When I was young and tender, I was actually working on his boat in the summertime, and I was running the radar, and I went out on the deck, and I was stunned. There were clouds in the sky, but I couldn't see the clouds. I saw dark against the stars. The darkness was the clouds. There was nothing illuminating the clouds. Nothing at all. No lights. And so I saw the clouds you see at night when you go out and look up in the sky, you see clouds. It was just black. It was black wisps. And I said to myself, what are those? And my cousin, the Mainer he was, goes, huh, you idiot. Them's clouds. What? Clouds? And he goes, ain't you pitiful? And he walks back in the wheelhouse. I was like, wow, I am pitiful. I've never seen clouds that are black against the brighter stars. They're always white. I'll tell you. And you see, folks, that's what I'm after. And with Sky Through a live stream, I'm after a dark sky. And that's why our observatory here in Connecticut is moving to Arizona in the near future. And we're going to keep you posted on that, and you're going to make the journey with me. I can tell you that. So I do want to just take a moment to thank all of you for tuning in to Sky Tour Radio tonight. Daryl, I want to thank you for joining us once again on Sky Tour Radio.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. And Amanda, as always, thank you for being the most wonderful co-host that a human being can have for their radio show.
Sweet.
And maybe
I will come back next week.
Yeah, so hopefully that's just to make her come back for next week, you know. Anyway.
Lottery gets you everywhere.
Yeah, right? Well, hey, folks, it's been great. Had a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed to talk about volcanic upheaval, and we'll see you next week with an equally compelling show. This is Mark D'Antonio, and on behalf of Amanda and Daryl, I want to thank you for listening to Sky Tour Radio, and remember, keep looking up.